Favorite comic, certainly one of mine, touring the country currently. Nestor Carbonell, you are on the tick, of course, Thursdays at 8:30 on Fox, right before Temptation Island, I believe.
Yes, it's
my guilty pleasure. Sheri, you've been with us many times before, a political consultant, head of the consulting firm Fourth Estate Strategies, and of course, Dr. Drew Pinsky, who I go to for all my... I do. If I have a problem in the love area or I have a burning sensation, I always call Dr. Drew.
And many calls he makes.
Not personally, but on his syndicated radio show, Loveline. Give a hand to our panel. Now, I have been dying to talk about the USA Patriot Act, which was passed overwhelmingly in our Congress. And there's a lot in there that people object to. We could go through all the motions in the act, and we might get to it. But let me just ask first about the name. I find that to be dirty pool. To call an act the USA Patriot Act. Now, I know the Republicans and conservatives are always good at seizing the linguistic high ground. Pro-life, who could be against life? States' rights. It's not about blacks, it's about states' rights.
Then who could be against liberal? I mean, liberating. You know,
liberal. Well, somehow that got to be a dirty word. But who is going to not vote for the USA Patriot Act? You could be legalizing crack in that act.
One woman. You always try to put the best wording on whatever it is. I mean, you always have the Mother and Apple Pie Act. And,
but you
and
don't.
It's smart to. Sure.
Call it the Mother and Apple Pie Act and see who votes.
Where? Name another act that has a name like this.
Oh, that's what you do. You always try to come up with the best sounding act.
Well, I remember the year I love my country and you're a big fat duty head if you don't act. Remember that one?
Are you suggesting that our leaders make decisions based on the names of the acts that they're voting on?
I'm suggesting that people are so gullible that if you name an act, the USA Patriot Act, and then somebody votes against it, the next time an election comes around, in a 30-second attack ad, you can say, my opponent has taken big money from tobacco to buy crack for your children, and he voted against the USA Patriot Act.
I don't think you get people...
And you are dead in the water. Yeah. So, of course, Congress people didn't even read it. They saw USA Patriot Act, they crapped their pants and voted.
It's what you name something.
Whose fault is that, though? It's not, I mean, the congressman should have... It's a 30,000-word act, yes, you have, but that's what you're paid to do, is to read this act.
That's what your staff is there to do and analyze it.
I can't believe it. It's less about the name and the content.
But it's all in a name. They have the missionary position so religious people can have sex.
Is that why they think that?
That's right. Well, yeah, that's...
But the act itself, the Patriot Act, that's more offensive than the name, don't you think? I mean, it's more interesting than,
why? What's in it?
It's giving, local law enforcement the authority to, almost deputize as federal agents to catch terrorists. I guess here's how we'll do it. We'll take out ads on Al Jazeera, and it'll say, learn to fly, no ID necessary, apply at any Krispy Kreme. And then they'll find them. That'll do it.
That's part of the point. Terrorists don't exactly hold up neon signs and say, here I am.
First of all, local law enforcement, it took them 30 years to get Sarah Jane Olsen, and they still haven't found Jimmy Hoffa, so, knock yourself out. I mean, and they were in this country, so...
Well, but there are a lot of loopholes in the law, and this is sort of a way of, and terrorists are using those loopholes to exploit our own freedoms and against us. So it really, it's a temporary provision. This is something it's got a sunset rule that...
Right, 2005.
This is up in 2005 and up for renewal.
What about the Pledge of Allegiance? Are you against that, too?
I think every child in this country should be forced to recite the lyrics to Creed's Higher every morning before they go to school. It's such a great song. It says the right things about how you should go through your day.
What are the lyrics?
Well, let me take you higher, and it's this whole wonderful song.
Let me take you higher.
Yes, but not your way.
You're okay with reciting reciting that one?
I resemble that remark.
I know. And then it should be followed by them reciting the Golden Rule, and then they should go out into the world, because that's really... And yes, I think the Pledge of Allegiance is good. I understand people have trouble with the God provision, and I don't know how to solve that one.
Do you think they should be forced to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Forced? I don't think they should be forced to say
Well, that's,
anything.
here's what happened. In New York City, the Board of Education voted. The president of the board said, as a, quote, small way to thank the heroes of 9/11, that all the kids would say the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't know kids ever stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was a kid, that's every day you got up and you said, I pledge allegiance to the flag.
And it never hurt us, frankly. It never hurt us. We did this. Well, I think this is one of the few places where actually kids get a sense of patriotism. That's the only place you really ever
would
get.
you object to, or would you require someone to say it if somebody objected to it? I mean, part of being an American, too, is be able to object and conscientiously.
Well, that's...
sorry,
go ahead.
Encouraging is different than forcing, and to institute a policy, but not.
Well, they are. No. This was at the New York City board voted. Then the people in District 3, there's hundreds of schools in New York, so District 3 has 31 schools. District 3 revolted and said, no, our schools should be able to decide for themselves. And a guy on District 3, who is apparently a board member and also, by the way, a moron. See, this is what I object to. He said, requiring students to blindly repeat the pledge is no different than the Taliban requiring children to memorize the Quran and repeat it by rote. People do not understand in this country a good analogy from a really crappy analogy.
We actually have a church and state division.
And also degree matters.
It does matter. In this country, there's a lot of that, but it doesn't matter. It's degree.
Yeah, it's the same as the Taliban.
Length matters.
Yeah, Pledge of Allegiance, Taliban.
Can I just tell you one quickie little thing? I went to a community board meeting the other night, and I had a lot of things to complain about, and I was just loaded for bear.
When you're like your city?
Community board meeting in L.A. It was
What is your community?
District 4.
4.
Sorry, yeah,
That's all the troublemakers.
The hell with the other districts. No. But the point was, it was about taking parkland away from people and their dogs, and so of course I went to have a big fight. But you know what happened? I got there, it was completely full, a zillion people, and they said, it was a newly elected congressman, city councilman, wonderful guy, and he said, I'd like you to all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance before we start the meeting. And all these adults stood up, and we pledged, and the meeting proceeded so civilly and so much better than I had expected, and even I thought, oh, well, take it easy, say it this way. And there's something that it does to you to realize, well, we are citizens of this, and we're working together to better everything. I think it's a good idea.
When citizens or when
a lefty pinko like you backs
I know, what's the matter with me?
Wow.
But no, when citizens are nationalized, they're required to pledge to this flag. I mean, that's it's
right. And you object to the under God part.
I don't object to it. I'm just saying that, the people use it to say, well, if kids aren't religious, it makes them feel, well, you know what I did? This is very true. That night, I didn't say under God. I said the whole thing, and I didn't say under God.
It was added later. That wasn't even part of the original pledge.
We kind of lost that. We are part of this and together, and people do run out in a fire and help you. And it's
now that pro-lifers say and justice for all, born and unborn, and left-wing people say they add with equality, liberty and justice for all. So we haven't changed. It's all the little interest groups getting their shots in.
Sure, but still, it's a good thing to say.
Yeah, it'd be better if they just said it the way we used to say it back when we were dumb and young and hiding under desks.
I think you should start the show with the pledge every night now. That's right.
Well, I'm going to start it with a commercial tonight. We'll be right back. Hi. Okay.
Just a news.
All right. So we were talking about the Patriot Act, which again sticks in my craw just because of the title, but it is part and parcel of what people are doing nowadays in our government, which is trying to ram through things under the cover of 9/11. Now, John McCain is doing it, and I applaud him for it. He's trying to close the gun show, because they have gun shows. Yeah, it's like Annie Oakley. No, it's not a gun show. It's a place where people swap guns out of their trunks.
Apparently, it's so easy to get guns there. They take the people from other countries come buy them here and take them
Well, that's the thing. John McCain is seizing on this, and it's true that it's a good way for terrorists. It's a good way for anybody to buy a gun without having to get checked before you do it.
The best way.
But, you know, a day before 9/11, on September 10th, a Hezbollah guy was convicted, and many terrorists have gotten guns this way. Why wouldn't they? So John McCain is saying, okay, now maybe the time is right to close the gun show loophole, and people are saying, well, you know, you're just using the 9/11 attack as cover to get this through, and, you know, if Bush can use it to promote the stupid space panty shield, why can't John McCain use it to close the gun show loophole?
I'm not sure he's using it. I think it's just more evidence that this needs to be done. You know what I mean? It's not under the cover of it. It's just further evidence that something like this needs to happen.
Actually, I think it's just a really easy way to bring the issue up. There really is no gun show loophole, which is sort of the misnomer. There's always been the ability to buy a gun from a private individual, whether you're at home or whether you're at a gun show, without a background check. Now, we can address that and say, should there be a background check on someone? That's fine. Well, so deal with that, but it's not a gun show loophole.
But it's a lot easier to go to a big swap meet where there's a lot of kooks with their trunks open than it is to go to somebody's house.
I think they're calling it the gun show loophole because that's easier to get people to vote for.
It is, exactly. That's right. And actually, people usually use fake IDs and go through the background checks, and that's how they get illegal guns.
And there's a better bill. Jack Reed of Rhode Island has a better bill. It has more Senate support. It was before this. And McCain's bill, it's well-intentioned, but it's multi-layered and it doesn't address person-to-person sales. Or if they would just enforce the Brady bill the way it was drawn originally, and that's what Jack Reed's bill does.
The Brady bill is 2 weeks. It's a 2-week waiting period, isn't it?
That's the whole point of gun shows. Do you know they have 50 caliber rifle-piercing rifles now that bring down helicopters? So there we are, making sure the metal detectors really work. And this guy's now in the parking lot of LAX actually shooting down planes that you can walk in anywhere now, 50 caliber rifles, and buy them and bring down planes and pierce armor. They work from a mile away. There is no restriction on this yet. Nothing.
Most people don't get their guns that way, though. I mean, I think you think, you know, cocaine were legalized and there were a cocaine party.
I don't get my cocaine that way, but
people wouldn't buy their cocaine there. They go
cocaine shows and nobody checks on me, and I don't have to wait.
That's the thing. Usually, most people do go through background checks at gun shows, and you have to deal with private.
You know, the Al-Qaeda bought 25 of these in the 80s. 25 of these, and they're still available. You go on all the jihad websites. I'm trying to get porn. I keep finding this political website.
You click on helicopter firing guns.
You click on the jihad websites. They say use America's gun laws, learn how to shoot, buy weapons, come back, we'll do the rest. I'm looking for porn. I keep finding these sites of, you know, I'm the only person who can't find a naked body on the web. I keep finding all this politics.
You're for this provision and you're against other provisions under the Patriot Act, though. You're for
this? I'm not.
You're not? Oh, okay.
Under the Patriot Act?
Yeah.
I haven't read it. But,
330 pages.
The Patriot Act. Please. What am I going to be against the Patriot Act? I'm also against sending people ice cream in the mail.
He voted against the Grandmoms and War and Kittens Act.
Yes, exactly. And the Grandma is Not Dead Act. I also voted for that.
I actually read the Patriot Act. I read the sort of condensed version of it. It's not bad. I mean, there's a lot of sort of nonsense flying out of it in terms of how it's upsetting.
What's going on, though? The Bush administration has completely taken away checks and balances at every step since this war.
Yes,
and that's the dangerous thing. And education is so bad now that people can't even enforce the powers they have.
This is a temporary solution. I mean, like we were talking about before, we're in an emergency situation. This is not something that
But you know, the Maher subsidy was a temporary. And it's so hard. They tried to kill the Maher Act. You know.
No, it's true.
No, really. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Anything that becomes a law takes on a life of its own. It is almost impossible to kill anything once it has become a law. That is the danger.
But this is different. I mean, nobody wants their Google searches watched, but nobody wants their Google searches watched. In other words, you can go into...
This is why Elayne can't find porn.
on the web.
Yeah.
That's true. That's right.
My Google search. I'd love to have my Google search.
People Google you, I'm sure.
Use a rubber glove, but...
you need to fit a profile.
If I remember it the way it was...
everyone's a little uncomfortable with some of their rights being taken away, as we should be, and we should be watchful of this. But I hate more the idea of somebody being able to ram a plane through a twin tower, and it does help you. It makes sure that you can tap cell phones that go with the person. I mean, there's important things that are in there.
Okay, that's the whole First Amendment that is now stepped on, and we've agreed for the safety of this country it happened, and yet the perceived...
how does that step on the First Amendment?
Because they can tap your phone without you knowing it. There's the right to privacy is out.
How would you get a terrorist? How would you ever?
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not. I don't know. I'm not intelligent enough to say don't do it. It's done. We're living with it. But a lot of privacy is gone. However, you're telling me that the Second Amendment, the perceived right for anyone to buy a rocket launcher, the Bush administration, which is supported by the gun lobby, will not address taking care of this gun show thing and enforcing the Brady Bill because it's going to step on someone's rights. We've given up all our First Amendment rights. Everyone here for safety.
They're very
and we're going to go after people who actually are terrorists. People who don't go along with the law. Most gun owners have their background checks, and that's very legal.
I'm not of the gun-toting type, so what's really behind all that? Why are they so afraid to restrict that?
Selfishness.
You know what? To tell you the
selfishness.
No.
Let me answer that for you. Pure selfishness. They love guns the way some people love cocaine or liquor. You can't. Then what possible reason could you have to support a 50 caliber machine gun?
Frankly, one of the reasons they're upset
Why
about
do you
this,
need that?
and I would never want a gun in my home. I don't like guns. I feel you should know how to use them, but I don't like them personally. The reason why
You
people
said you were shooting.
Yeah, I've gone shooting because I feel it's important to know. But I feel it's important how to know these, to know how to use the different rifles.
A gun, but a 50 caliber machine gun that can fire from a mile away. This idea that they hide under, that we need guns because the Constitution says we have to have a militia in case the government gets too uppity, like we could fight them off with the F-16s and nuclear weapons.
To tell you the truth, the reason why people are so upset about it is because people on the other side actually say that their main goal is to get rid of guns.
Yes, it's
and
a
if there was some
slippery
sensible
slope.
middle, I think more people would be willing to compromise, because there should be compromise.
I don't think the NRA is even arguing with his position, though. I mean, Charlton Heston is saying he's not arguing with.
Oh yes,
no, he's arguing with. He's arguing with not arguing with the background checks. He's arguing with requiring private dealers to have licenses. So I don't think that the
NRA basically argues with any sort of gun control because they always bring out that phrase, a slippery slope.
It's more than a slippery slope, though. You have people it's like the Palestinians saying we want to get rid of Israel. Sort of the same idea in that they want to get rid of the Second Amendment. Most people are in the center and think that there should be some sort of rational laws to make sure that people who are terrorists and people who are illegal.
Why are they fighting this one? Which they are. It protects the lunatic fringe of the gun lobby.
They're all for changing the laws, except when it comes to their campaign donors. I hate to tell you that, but that's the truth. Oil is another thing that we should be using to fight the terrorists. The people who sell us the oil get money from us, Saudi Arabia, which they then send to the terrorists. But are we saying to the American people, is our leadership saying, you know, we should use less oil?
Number one, find an alternative source of energy. Wouldn't that be? I mean, we've been doing 100 years a fluid that combusts. Can't we come up with that? Not out of
We have it. We have an electric car. I just bought one. And it works great.
And he gets chicks with that car.
We got to take a break. We'll be back. Okay. So listen, in the time left, we're talking about defending our country. You know, the Attorney General, John Ashcroft, asked Muslim men to come in. He invited them.
Party?
Come on in. Let's just have a chat. It's an invitation. You know, let's just call it an invitation. And very few showed up.
Because they had to pledge allegiance first. They didn't want to...
Yeah. So he extended the deadline.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. If we're serious about this, do we really want to do it by invitation?
Well, good point.
You know,
it was sort of a scary letter. It was a spooky letter. Did you read it? Just come on down.
It's a spooky time, and there's some spooky people.
Look, if you had nothing to fear, you know, what have you got to hide? You know, think about it that way.
I just don't know if this is the most efficient way to do it. You're dealing with thousands of tens of thousands of people. You might want to have a little bit more information behind.
Understand them. Let them come and tell us. Because look what they say, that the terrorists did this so they can meet 200 virgins in heaven. I mean, what does that mean? It's not religion at all. It's still guys trying to impress chicks.
That's right. That's right, guys trying to get laid.
I think...
That's what it is. That's what it is.
No, But isn't the problem the word profiling again? Just like pro-life or states' rights or patriot, if you just call it detecting, because all detecting, excuse me, is profiling.
I must fit some kind of profile. I fly a lot, and every time I go to the airport, they're putting the gloves on and they're taking out all my stuff. It's not no cavity searches or anything, but they are. I get every time I get.
You didn't have your Google search.
No Google searching. But my thing is,
not at the airport.
First of all, I have two feelings. One is if I fit a profile, hassle me.
Why do you fit a profile?
Well, I don't think I do. I think I just have bad luck, and I keep coming around to the bad number. And they even talk. They know who I am.
Look at what I was going to say.
But the point is it to maintain randomness, or shall we be having a little bit of profiling in the interest of expediency?
I mean, you do have to go back. But you shouldn't be. You don't fall into that. And I think you should profile to the extent that you know who flew into a building. So that makes some sense to go after that person. You also want to go after people who are known to have ties to those people. Most of these people do not have ties.
A liberal Polish celebrity?
I don't think that we should be worried about that.
That makes me for profiling.
I am Russian.
Sorry, good profiling. We got to take a break. We'll be back. All right, we have 9 seconds. Let's go out with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.